Before we move on and start working with our index.html, let's create the remaining folders so that we've got it done, and then we're just going to be putting the files into them. So the next folder will be called email, or emails rather, because there may be several ones. We're only going to be creating one for the purpose of this exercise, but obviously with your own system you may have many different emails that you're going to be distributing. Then we have images, which is okay. INC folder. After INC, we're going to have MOD for our modules, and the uploads folder, where all of our files submitted through the form will be uploaded. And then obviously we're going to be working with them as well to make it all secure and so on. Okay, so now that we have our files directories created, if we open our index.html, now why do we keep use .html extension rather than PHP? Because we're using Ajax technology here, Ajax approach. Obviously, everything is processed within the external file, basically. So all we basically going to be putting inside of this index file is going to be a pure HTML and some JavaScript. That's why we can use HTML extension. Now if we scroll down, and in between the opening and closing body tag, we're going to start with div id wrapper. As you can see, by the way, we obviously have our Uploadify CSS and core.css already included. Then we have the latest version of jQuery also included, as well as Uploadify, and then form object and core. Form object and core.js are blank files at the moment. These are the ones which will actually process the whole thing, but that's a little bit later on. Let's continue with our form. So then we go for div id form wrapper, and inside of our form wrapper, what I'm going to do actually is to hide the file browser, so I've got a little bit more room here. And in between the opening and closing div with the id form wrapper, we're going to start with the form method. We use post, then enc type, enc type. We're going to use multi-part /form -data. Although technically we don't really need this, because we're going to be loading this outside of this form. So it's entirely up to you if you're going to use it or not, because all we're going to be sending with the form are going to be the names of the files that are uploaded. But let's keep it this way. ID then, ID is going to be form contact. And that's all with the form tag. Inside of this one, we're going to start with the div with the class row. We have all these classes already created inside of our core.css file, so you don't have to be worried about the formatting. Obviously, you can modify this file, you can use your own structure and so on. It's entirely up to you. Then we have div with the class row left and the type. Then we go for label for type, and then email class. Obviously, in a real life scenario, you wouldn't have this field, because this is for us just for the testing purposes. You would choose one of the libraries you want to use for processing email, and that's it. The client wouldn't see any of this, obviously. But that's for us for testing. If you don't want to use it, don't put it in the form, basically. Okay, next one is div with a class. Sorry, this is still inside of the row div. So after this row left, we're gonna go for div with the class row right and full name after this, which is basically the name of the field. Then label for full name, and then full name colon and star symbol indicating that it's a required field. After this row, if we copy the entire block, the structure is pretty much the same. So if we scroll down a little bit, now rather than having type here, we're only going to have div row left and row right, and rather than having label in between, we're going to have for the first one, we're going to have select name equals type and ID equals type as well. Then we have class select required indicating that obviously this field is required. After this, we go on a new line, title, please select the library. Then we close the select tag. And between the opening and closing one, we're going for option, value. First one is going to be blank, select 1. Then we go for another option, value 1. It's PHP mailer. Then another one, option, value 2. Swift mailer. Then we have option, value 3. Zend mail. And I think that's enough in this video. Let's move to the next one.